Folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this little fella right here, the Treasures of the Pirate King. And it is Los Tesoros del Rey Pirata. I probably murdered that, but that's what the translation is, I believe, the Treasures of the Pirate King. So it is a 2 to 4 player game. There's a little bit of a take that element in there, set collection for points, and that's pretty much it. Pretty neat card deck of dice mechanism that's going on here, so there is that. But anyway, let's get down to the table. I'll show you how it works, and we'll come back in a few moments after that with some final thoughts. Let's get to it. So here I have a 4-player game of the Treasures of the Pirate King set up for you, and basically everybody's going to start with their own captain, and the captains are double-sided, so you can choose to be the male captain or a female captain. So that's pretty cool. Everybody also gets their own little turn card, which gives them the layout of what they can do on their turn. They also get a hand of 5 cards to start with. The treasure cards, where they're going to be placed, are laid out here on the side. And then the play deck over here is also set up after everybody is done. You take the anchor card and the event cards that are underneath here, and you give these guys a good shuffle. And then you put the anchor card on top of that, and then that comprises the bottom of the play deck. So what's going to happen here is you're going to play through this play deck, and whenever you reveal the anvil card, you're going to trigger one of those events, which usually affects everybody in a not so good way. And then the play deck is shuffled again and put back on that. So the game will end in a couple of different ways. First way it can end is by all of the events at the bottom of this deck are played through, which means you're going to go through the deck 5 times, which sounds like a long time, but it actually isn't. The other way that it can end is that all of these treasure cards that are going to be popping up along the map have been claimed. Those are the 2 ways that it can end. And then whoever has the most points at the end of that is the winner. Well, what constitutes points? Well, if you look at the end of these, the backside of these treasure cards, that it's a set collection type of thing. So if you get only one green treasure, it's worth 1 point to you. If you get 2, they're worth 3. And if you get 3, they're worth 6 altogether. So that's how you're going to score points, based upon how many and what kind of treasures you collected over the course of the game. Now, before we get into gameplay, I just wanted to go over the different kinds of cards that are available in the deck. You first of all have equipment cards that can be lampposts and shovels, and these are cards that can be equipped by next to your captain, and only one of those can be equipped. If you want to equip a different one, this one will have to go back up into your hand, and the other one comes back down. But you have cards that will be able to help you draw better whenever you're drawing cards. This one will help you move faster. You can assign a die value of 5 instead of having to use a card from your hand. This one helps you fire your cannons better. This one helps you do duels a little bit better. And we'll get over to what all that means in just a few minutes. But you have these equipment cards that you can play on yourself, or you can play them as the die values and assign them to different things. Another thing that equipment cards are used for is claiming treasure over here. As you can see at the bottom, it shows you what kind of equipment you have to have in order to claim that treasure. So there's that. You also have treachery cards that you play on other people, kind of a take that mechanism. This one will make them discard equipped cards. This one allows you to look at their hand and choose one card and put it back in your hand. But you also have protection cards, which cancel the effects of treachery cards. So there's that as well. And then you also in this deck have just regular dice cards, and the die values on the cards range from 1 to 7. Now, in the bottom of the deck, there are 5 different event cards, and they do a number of different things. For example, every pirate must discard an equipped card that they have. This one, Rumor, says every pirate shows their hand. This one is Scurvy. Every pirate has to reduce their hand to a maximum of 2 cards, discarding the rest. The dark lighthouse, each pirate returns to the starting point, which is right here in the middle of the board, which is really bad if you're like way over here or way over here and you're about to gain a treasure. You have to come back to the middle. So that's that. And then you also have a storm. It says every pirate passes their hand to the right. So that's what these different event cards are done. They're shuffled and put on the bottom of the deck underneath that anvil card. So let's go ahead and get to gameplay. So on your turn, you're gonna be able to do 4 things. You're gonna be able to draw a card, then you can choose one of these actions, then you have to move your ship, and then you can choose one of the same actions again, and then your turn is over. So you're going to do 4 things during the course of the turn. Now, the different actions you can choose are simply drawing a card. So at the beginning of your turn, the first thing you do is draw a card. And then you can choose to draw another card if you want to, move your ship, and then draw another card if you want to. So it really kind of depends. But that's not the only thing you can do. You can also fire your cannons. So let's say that Brown here is going to wants to attack the gray pirate ship over here. They can do that firing cannons. They have to be adjacent. So if he was over here, he'd also be able to fire there. If he was here or here or here. If he was over here in this port, he would not be able to fire because he can't fire over the island. Whereas like right here, if he's in this port, definitely can fire on him there. But basically, in order to fire your cannons, you're simply going to play a card from your hand and it's going to have a die value attributed to it. So the attacker will play his card and the defender will also be able to play a die value as well. So we'll do that one right there. And then both of the cards are revealed. And whoever has the highest value is the winner. So the attacker got a 5 and the defender defended with a 6. So in this case, nothing happens. But let's say that these were reversed and the attacker actually won. Then the attacker will be able to take no less than 2 cards from the hand of the defender randomly. So that's what firing cannons does. Now, if you are in the same spot, you can also attack, but it's called dueling at that point. And what happens with dueling is you're going to assign die values, whoever is attacking and winning, so forth and so on. But the attacker will be able to take one of your treasure cards that you've taken, and they get to choose which ones they want because they're actually on your ship and fighting with you and all that other kind of stuff. Another thing that you're able to do on your turn is playing a treason card or a treachery card on somebody else. And so you'll simply carry out the effects. If they have a protection card, walk the plank, then they will be able to block this. And if it's blocked, it just goes back. Both cards are done. But you can play treason cards. You can also equip cards by taking the equipment and putting them face up in front of you like this. As I said earlier, you can only have one face-up equipped card at a time. If you want to play a different one, for example, this one will come back up into your hand and this one will take its place. And the last option that you have to do in phases 2 and 4 is to claim a treasure. So if you find yourself in a port that has a treasure in it, then you can basically discard the kind of equipment that treasure is looking for, and then you'll be able to take that and take this and put it in your tableau. And now this is going to be scoring you points at the end of the game, as I said earlier, in that set collection way. But this one is discarded, and then a new card is taken from the bottom of the deck over here. So that is Mr. Osa. So where is that one? That's right here. So that's going to be placed right here, and now there's a treasure here. Now, you might have been noticing these different arrows. Well, that has to do with movement. Now, if you're in a port, you cannot just leave from the port in whatever way you want to. You have to follow the arrows. So you must go into and out of this port by this way. So if you want to get over here, it is not just 1, 2. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because you can only enter this port where the arrows are. Now, in order to move your ship, you have to assign a die value, and you can use one of the cards from your hand and use the die value that's on the bottom of it, or you can just simply top deck a card and use whatever die value is on that and discarding it afterwards. But you have to assign a die value. Now, if you have the sextant and compass equipment card equipped to your captain, then you can just assign a 5 to it because you've got some instruments that you're using and it allows you to navigate better. But except for in that particular case, you have to use a card from your hand, or you have to top deck a card over here. So in order for the black pirate ship to come from here over to here to claim this treasure, he would have had to ascribe at least a 1, 2, 3 die value. So he could have ascribed this die value to that move. He would have moved 1, 2, 3, and then played this card in order to claim that treasure. Now, when you ascribe a die value to your movement, you can move up to that amount, but you always have to move at least 1 space. You can never just stay where you are. Additionally, you cannot return to where you came from. So once you have drawn a card, chosen an action, moved your ship, and chosen another action, that will be the end of your turn. You have a hand size of 8, and if you have more than 8 cards in your hand, at the end of your turn, you have to discard down to 8, but then it's the next person's turn. And that's how the game progresses until one of those 2 in-game conditions are met. All of the events on the bottom of the deck here have been gone through, or all of the map or treasure chests have been found. At that point, whoever has the most points by adding up your different treasures is the winner. So that's that for the Treasures of the Pirate King. Now, this is a take that game, but I don't think that the take that element is very strong here because there are a lot of protection cards in the deck that help mitigate that a little bit. So while it's there, it's a possibility. You have to have the protection cards to protect yourself from it. It's not that heavy and doesn't feel that take that-ish horrible sentence structure, but hopefully you get what I mean. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into my pros and cons. Now, my first pro of the game is that it is a simple game. It doesn't take a whole lot of thought processes to play the game. It's very simple what you're going to do. You draw a card, you choose an action, you move your ship, you choose another action, and you're done. And the actions that you choose don't, in phases 2 and 4, don't have to be different. You can do the same thing. So your turn could be draw a card, draw another card, move your ship, and draw a card, and you're done. As long as you don't go over your hand limit of 8 at the end there. So that's the structure of the game, and it's very simple and it's very intuitive almost because you don't really have to put a whole lot of thought in what you're able to do. What do you want to do? And that's what I like. It has a real sandboxy nature to it, even though your choices are kind of limited. You can do whatever you want on your turn, and you can do it any number of times as long as you're sticking to that phase structure that we already talked about. So I like that. It's fun, and it's very light at the same time, but it's fun. My second pro of the game is actually the fact that your die values are on the cards that are in your hand. Now, normally I don't like, and I haven't liked in the past, a deck of dice where you're using you're top decking usually a card, which you can do in this game, but you don't have to. And that's one of the reasons why I like that better than I like what's happening in this game better than a deck of dice, because I don't always have to top deck. I can put down a card, I know what the value is, and I'm pretty sure it's going to beat what the other guy has because I know the range of values that the cards have on them. So I like the mechanism that's here better than a regular deck of dice because I'm choosing from my hand, and if I don't like any of those possibilities, I can just top deck a card with the possibility of pulling out a win. So I like that a lot. It turned out to, it took a random mechanism in dice rolling and added more strategy to it, added more tactics to it. So I could choose to just kind of roll the dice and a top deck a card, or I can go with what I know I have in my hand. And I like that dichotomy to that mechanism. It was really fun, and it added a lot of fun to the game. My third pro for the game was the artwork and graphic design. Now, there isn't a whole lot of artwork on the game per se. But the artwork that's there is both iconic and it's good artwork. It's fun to look at. So I like that. The fact that the equipment cards and the treachery cards and the protection cards all had their own color to them was, at first, it was like, I wish they would have actually had colorful pictures on there rather than just one stark color with the images penciled in. But as the game drew on, that actually helped us understand what was going. I saw that my opponent played a red equipment card. I didn't need to see exactly what it would, because I knew what it did. Okay, they just played a yellow equipment card. I know that that's going to help them draw cards. They played a red one. I know that's going to help them fire their cannons. They played a green one. I know that's going to help them move around. So the graphic design of it is really kind of what I'm going at. Not necessarily the artwork, although it wasn't bad. I think the graphic design and the choices that they made helped the game move along faster. Now, my only real con of the game is that near the end of the game, while we were let me say it this way, while we were playing the game, at first I was like, wow, these treasures are going to run out a lot faster than getting through all 5 of those events. And I was like, we're never going to go through all 5 of those events. We're always going to run out of treasures first. Why is that even why is there even a difference there? But as we continued to play the game, for example, we got down to the very last treasure. And at the very last part of the game, the dynamic of the game kind of shifted to people stealing, dueling with each other and trying to steal their treasures from each other so that they could bolster up. And they were playing the points game. I know, well, he's beating me by 1 point, but if I duel him and I win and I get to take that treasure from him, now I'm winning by 2 points. And there's that, and the dynamic of the game shifted towards the end to where nobody was going after that last treasure. And as we were doing that, those events started to cycle a lot faster. So the con of the game is that we got towards the end of the game and it felt like for a little bit, this is not ending. So the con here is that it might overstay its welcome. It might just go too long for what the people in the game are wanting it to go, because the end of the game is within reach. It's right there, but I can't get to it. That feeling is a con for me. So with all that being said, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. And the reason I'm giving it a 7 out of 10, even with that con that I just got through mentioning, is because at the end of the game, we were sitting there, we were talking about the game, and we all said, that was fun. That was a fun time. Yeah, there was take that in there. Yeah, at one point I was like, come on, I just want this to end. But at the end of the game, we all had enjoyed ourselves and we all had fun, and that's a good thing. So I'm giving this a 7 out of 10 based on the fact that it's a fun game. The graphic design is thematic. It's involving. The gameplay is easy to teach, easy to fun. It's almost intuitive. And it's just fun. So a 7 out of 10 for me for the Treasures of the Pirate King. Thanks for joining. I certainly appreciate your time. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care now.